Guys, what questions do we have? We've made it through the holiday. We're in the thick of summer. I know for some of you that means it's a busy season. I know for others it's like, hey, 4th of July, things kind of slowed down. What's going on? So tell me, what questions do we have today? What issues are we running into? What things do we want to solve here in this meeting? Just unmute, raise a hand, put it in the chat. No right or wrong. Let's get into it. What's happening?
I'm new, so I'm just soaking it in, just trying to figure out what's what, and how these things flow, and see what information I can garnish.
Yeah.
You
Well,
bet.
we love you being here. Brian, I see your hand up. What's going on?
I have two different questions.
Okay.
The first one is figuring out how to do daily meetings with my employees. We all start at different times during the day, so it seems really difficult to coordinate a daily, like the power meeting in the beginning of the day, just to get everyone hyped up. How have other people accomplished getting daily meetings? I may be able to accomplish like every other day, but every day I'd be calling people when they're not even at work to do that meeting if it was done that way.
It's a
Yeah,
great
man.
question. And it's even, Brian, it's something that I get asked a lot is how to handle team meetings. And so we do workshops every couple months. And it's actually one that I'm hoping that we do a workshop on is just how to make your meetings more productive and keep the team engaged and motivated. But would love to hear any clients who are having team meetings consistently and just how you do those, when you do them. Um, Dale, I don't know if you're in a position to talk, but I know you guys do a team meeting every week. If anybody else has implemented that.
No, but it's something that I'd like to know also, because I've been thinking about it. Because the way we work, my team's really disjointed. Some of them start at 10 a.m., some of them start at 7 a.m., some of them, work every other day. It just depends on our job schedule. So,
Yeah. Well, I see Bryce just put it in the chat, put an outline for your daily huddle. This is an agenda. Just like how our meetings have an agenda, like every time you meet with Redmond Growth, there's an agenda that we pull up. Every time you meet with your team, having an agenda that you follow, that's kind of your central point of communication, is key. This outline here will kind of walk you through. The main thing is if they're not working that day, they don't need to be a part of the daily huddle. If they are working that day, they do need to be part of the daily huddle. Your whole team doesn't need to be there every day unless they're, working that day. They're central part of making that day happen. If you don't have an office space, that's totally fine. I had a client who literally would meet in a cow pasture that was kind of central to everybody, and that's where they met every morning, and they just got out of their trucks and they talked. So, like, that's okay. You could do it at a Starbucks, you could do it at a Denny's, you could do it literally outside of your garage. If you're the one who keeps all of the vans and they have to come get the vans, then have it there in the driveway, but have it at the same time and place every single day. If that isn't realistic, then you need to require your team to either get on Google Meet like we are right here with their iPads or with their phone, or at least get them on a phone. Now, what we're talking about specifically today is really what daily huddles are just for is, hey, this is what happened yesterday that went really well. This is the main goal, marching orders for today. Does anybody have any burning fires, questions that we need to address in order to be able to move forward? A daily huddle is kind of for the essentials. Where I see Dale just put in the chat, he does his every Friday. He does breakfast for them. They start it at the same time. They pull up the agenda. That is more for a set team meeting. This is going to be longer than a huddle. A huddle is going to take 15, 20, 30 minutes. A hour-long or longer meeting each week is where you're going to pull up key tracking documents. You're going to go over individual KPIs. You're going to improve processes. You're going to say, hey, team, what are we doing right now that's maybe a bit frustrating? What issues do you think we can improve on? What systems do you feel like we need to have in place? And so the daily huddle's more so for marching orders, quick questions to hopefully avoid the got-a-minute meetings throughout the day, where this set weekly hour-long meeting is more for improving processes, going over numbers, holding people accountable.
Something I'll add into that. Well, one, a question first. Brian, what's your trade? Are you doing service work or construction?
We do pest control.
Okay. So part of it too, I'm assuming, is just people meeting at different job sites as well throughout the day. Like no one's going to be in a centralized location. So one thing I want to highlight from what Nicole said is accessibility has been made normal because of COVID. That's one of the benefits we got, that doing virtual meetings is very normal. So doing even FaceTime or Google Meet like this can work. To the other point as well, if a daily huddle isn't exactly necessary, it's best practice, it's ideal, but if it isn't exactly necessary for work to happen, then doing a weekly recap for the meetings, like Dale's doing with Arnold's Plumbing. Like they do a once meeting, like Nicole was saying, where they go into a lot more depth. It's a bit longer. The daily huddle is just giving, like Nicole said, marching orders for the day. So the thing I wanted to point out too with this is a simplified agenda just gives you a structure to make this last 10 or 15 minutes. In that case, Brian, it doesn't matter if you do it at the start of someone's day necessarily. If they're starting at different times, you just choose what time that's going to be. If that's 9 a.m., then it's at 9 a.m. And it's a pause for some people that have already started a job, continuation, or the beginning for those that haven't started yet. You pick the time that works for the business overall, or that is, kind of the best case scenario. But then keep it simple, keep it short. And so what this huddle agenda is meant to do is just cover 4 points. What are wins, issues, what's the schedule, and then some sort of a training nugget where you're giving them productive, forward thinking nuggets essentially. And then you break it off and you keep it short, you keep it quick. Is that helpful?
This is a great place, Brian, where throughout the day, if you tell one of the guys, hey, tomorrow I need you to do blank, or by tomorrow I need you to do blank, or if you're assigning kind of action items, for lack of a better word, that's outside of their normal scope of like day-to-day work, put it down on the agenda so that you have that set time in the morning to follow up with it, to say, hey, were you able to get this done? Or hey, how did that conversation go? And try to get your team in the habit of doing that too. We're like, this is the set time for them to communicate to you if they need you to do anything, so that hopefully eventually it minimizes the amount of like calls that you're getting throughout the day of people like, hey, can you do this? Or hey, can you do this? It's like, hey, we have a set time. Unless it's something it has to get done today, let's talk about it in the morning during the daily huddle, get it assigned, get it done.
Okay, that gives some more insight. I'll have to still work on that, but thank you. I did have one other question. How do you handle an employee that does great work, but sometimes doesn't do what you want them to do or what you require them to do? They'll tell you no, but they've been with you for years and create situations every now and then.
Wow. Yeah. Anybody have some feedback and experience? I know we have some stuff we'll jump into, but anybody else have a related? Okay, go ahead.
Something like this, I think the specifics really matter. And so, Brian, could you give an example of what this individual said, like, no to?
Two things that really have stood out lately. Whenever I was doing some training on some door knocking that we were doing, he refused to cooperate with where I was pretending to be a customer and him being the tech. He said he was not doing that, as if it was beneath him. And that was right in front of my other employee that I was trying to train at the time. He just said, no, I'm not doing that. I already know how to do that, and I'm not doing this. Another instance is kind of an ongoing thing. I have said that our techs are not to be on their phone with non-business related conversations while they're working, because we're walking through people's houses and talking with customers, and they're telling us information while we're in there. And he refuses to not be on his phone while he's working. And it's like a big stick for him. He says he has to be able to talk while he works. And even though I've told him it's not allowed because, you know, customers may be telling you sensitive information. I don't know who you're on the phone with, but it shouldn't be used out in, you know, while you're on the job. And that's one of the things he just refuses to cooperate on. But
Yeah,
he's been
so
with me for 2 years, and I can't afford not to have him. So
a lot of people in the group chat are kind of already like saying probably what, Brian, you may feel like you need to do. People are, you know, are saying terminate him, fire him, get rid of him. And that's what I think that you should do, but I don't think you should be stupid with it. And being stupid with it would be letting this guy go and then your business suffering because you don't have someone to fill in, right, or replace him.
that's a problem. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, the reason why I asked for the specifics is because situations like these, if we just get reactive and okay, you don't want to follow what I say, well, get out the door. Maybe sometimes that's necessary. And maybe sometimes you can do that and it's not going to dampen the business, or maybe sometimes doing that and dampening the business is still the best decision. The first thing I would do is have you pull them aside and address this specifically and said, hey, here's really what I expect. Here's why I'm asking of this. And here's what will happen if I can't get you on board. Have you had a direct conversation with him?
Probably about twice. We've done it in our meetings with doing the evaluations and addressed this situation, and he's told me no directly to that.
Yeah.
And
So that's like a big problem. And I don't mean to interrupt you, Brian. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying that he does really good work, and our customers really like him. And I don't get callbacks for him very often. So he's getting a lot of work done. He's bringing in a good amount of money for the company. So he's been very like profitable, but he's essential as well, because if he goes, then that means I have to step up and do more to fill in the void. And it takes about 2 months to get a new person integrated, and then they don't have the expertise or knowledge that he would have already.
Yeah, I totally hear you. So here's what I'd recommend doing real specifically is you've already had conversations with him. I would recommend right now, like literally today, writing him up using a formal like a write-up template. Can Travis or somebody put one of our templates, or do you have a write-up template, Brian?
Yes.
So I would make sure that you do that. And what you're trying to do right now is just have a paper trail, right? Where there is a clear kind of paper trail of infractions, you addressing that, and there being more infractions. And what you're trying to avoid by doing this is having to pay unemployment. So you're going to terminate this guy. And the first thing he's going to do is file for unemployment. Well, if you don't have like a paper trail of, hey, he has been let go, he's been dismissed, he's been fired because we keep on running into these recurring issues. I've tried addressing him, and he refuses to cooperate with the team. That's why we had to let him go. A lot of times that will get you exempt from having to pay unemployment, right? And so that would be the first thing that I'd recommend. The next thing I'd recommend doing is to, if you're not already actively hiring, I would get a job post up today and begin that process. And as soon as you find a guy who has the character that you're really looking for, and it's like not that, I mean, it can be hard to find good people, but it's not actually that hard to find someone who doesn't do what this guy's doing, right? It's not that hard to find someone who doesn't tell you no in front of the rest of the team. And the reason why that's such a problem is because that sets a precedent of, oh, we can run the show here, right? This guy does what he wants and gets away with it. We can do the same. We want to nip that in the bud. That can't happen. It's going to create anarchy in your business, or could. And so write this guy up, make sure there's a paper trail. If you haven't written it up for this thing that happened 2 days ago, do that, right? Start the hiring process. And you just mentally, I would just decide I have to let this guy go. And I'm in the mode of acting like he's already gone and I need to replace him in my business. And that's what I would recommend.
Like my biggest, or one of my questions is there things or methods that anyone has done to help condition someone that has been a problem to bring them up to not being a problem? Like I would hate to lose him because he does great work. I would like to be able to build him up and get him into the place I need him, instead of just letting him go.
Yeah, I would love to turn it over to someone else. I know Greg Dans has a problem, or has his hand raised. I'd love to hear what he has to say. My take on this, Brian, is that it's kind of reached a point of no return. If I was betting on the situation, I'm going to go ahead and bet that even if you had the best HR people on your team and you were the best trainer and motivator and everything, that you're not going to fix a guy like that. You know, that's not really that common to have people just tell you no in front of your team. And to me, that's like kind of that's like kind of like a point of no return, you know. And so I would encourage you to make peace with the fact that this guy needs to be let go. Like I would start accepting that. I hear what you're saying in that he does a good thing for my business. And so I want to make it work. But I would encourage you to move to a place of acceptance that this isn't going to work, right? And that we got to start finding someone new to replace him. Greg, I want to go to you because there's a few hands raised, and I know that other folks here have some really good feedback.
Yeah, no, I had a similar situation. I had, one of my general foreman basically worked with me for 5 years. Very talented guy, could do everything. Wasn't the best communicator with clients, but he did a great job. I didn't have to worry about him. Met with him every morning, lined him out with what had to be done, and it got done in a timely fashion. I had to let him go a couple months ago for similar reasons. Basically, he got too comfortable with his position and thought he was, beyond being told how to do things. And it got to the point where I was having to send him back to redo and fix problems that he was basically not doing properly, getting lackadaisical on. And bottom line, if you start sending him back, you don't make any money. So I sat down and tried to have a one-on-one with him and try to, get him back on page. And basically, he had a FU attitude, like, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this long enough. Just let me do my job and pay me my money. Well, unfortunately, I had to let him go. And, it's been hard. As Bryce knows, it's been hard because I've had to step in and do a lot of the things that he did. And once I got back into the field more often, I was realizing how many corners he was cutting and what was really going on. And it's hard to be there every day. Bottom line is I did let him go. He has called me 3 times since begging for his job back, and I'm not going down that path anymore just because, I tried. It didn't work out. And as hard as it is, it's better to let him go and just move on.
Totally agree, Greg. I mean, somebody with a bad attitude is toxic to the entire team. If their entire team sees you tolerating somebody's bad attitude, it's going to bleed out into them. And so making that decision and being stubborn about it, and you can't complain about what you tolerate. So just keep that in mind whenever you're dealing with an employee where it's like, hey, if you're not willing to do something about it, to write them up, to let them go, then you can't complain about it. That's your job as the business owner. Let's see, Aaron Albuquerque, I think you're next. What's thoughts?
Yeah, So I agree with both Greg. Excuse me. I agree with Greg. Excuse me. I agree with Greg and Robert. Sorry, I have a cold. Um,
Yeah,
I've
he's
had
actually not
similar.
that
Yeah,
old.
yeah,
He sounds like an old man, but he's not. I'm just kidding.
yeah. No situations.
Sorry, Aaron. I didn't mean to throw you off track. Go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
you're good. You're good. Yeah, he's right. I'm not an old man. I do have. I've had this situation a couple of times occur. I get what you're saying. This guy already knows what he's doing. If not, it's going to be me. Who's going to replace him? All of the really, really super important things for our business and for our day to day. It's progress that you've made in your business. It's something that's established. But a bad attitude cannot be changed. This guy thinks that he's the owner. He thinks he's you. He does not respect you. You cannot change that he does not respect you. I cut somebody yesterday, and the stuff that I heard from this individual was just mind-boggling. Um, I've had this similar situation with key players in the field and in the office, and I've had to make provision, just like Robert said. You don't want to be stupid and have a bunch of collateral damage and just make a decision based on emotion, but you do want to be wise and make provision and start planning this person's exit. Looking at them like they're already gone is going to help you 100%. I agree 1,000,000% with what Robert's saying. Start planning for this dude to be, gone, because he's not going to listen. Like Greg said, he's not listening to you. I mean, he's blatantly disrespecting you and not listening to you in front of your team. I could imagine the stuff he's not doing when you're not around. I mean, just think about it. I've encountered the same things. I'm like, holy smokes. I have had a bad foreman, and I'm like, okay, well, he was a little disrespectful in front of the team, and he was a little stubborn, but he does get all the work done. And then it turned into a situation where I'm held hostage by this guy. This guy is just doing whatever he wants. And I'm like, what's really going on here? So, and then once I got rid of him and kind of assumed some of the responsibilities that I should be doing as an owner. As owners, we have to do the tough work. We don't want to do the tough work. We want to be business owners. We want to, have reap the benefits of having our own business, have the freedom to be able to help people. We do things with good intentions, with a good heart. And some people are just, they're just pieces of work. I mean, that's the tough work of being a business owner. You're gonna fail in your business, or you're gonna stay small and not grow. I would highly, highly recommend, that you just follow Robert's advice. That's very, very, very sound. Make provision for the guy, get rid of the guy, set policies in place, and kind of show people that um, you're not going to tolerate that, because you shouldn't have to. You've worked your ass off and gone above and beyond to become a business owner, and you do not need, a piece of shit like this disrespecting you and telling you what what he will and will not do within your business. Is not the right person. I've had this situation 3 or 4 times, and Nicole's right. It's because I tolerated it. 100%. I tolerated it. Totally my fault. And don't make excuses for people's behaviors. As far as trying to coach them and train them, I've gone down that rabbit hole as well. And the bottom line is, somebody will not do what you do not want them to do. You can put all the tools at their feet, but if they have the wrong attitude about it, it starts with the amount of respect they have for you. And I think that that's the main thing that's going on. I let someone go yesterday. I let somebody go 4 weeks ago, and one of them was a foreman that was very, very talented. The other one was a project manager that was extremely talented, and it's because it went back to the amount of respect and the willingness to listen. I mean, these guys see that we're being weak, right? That we're being a little bit weak, and that we're being a little bit we're being tolerant, and they push the envelope, and we allow it, we allow it, we allow it. Before you know it, you have something like this that out of control, and then it's just going to affect your entire culture, your entire company. The individual I had in my office, I'm probably going to have to fire 2 other people now because of, this has seeped into the culture in there and into, the way of operating. And it's affected me in a very negative way. It's because I've allowed it. So I would highly recommend just, do make peace with what Robert said, make peace with him being gone and make provision to replace him, and just never tolerate it again. You don't deserve that.
Yeah. It's great advice, Aaron. You're preaching for a minute there, and I love it.
I did too. And I'm not just saying that because he supported what I said. That was good.
and what I will say, Brian, is like your feelings are totally valid, where it's like, but I don't want to have to get back into the field. It's revenue that this guy is bringing in. Like replacing somebody is going to take time, and all of those things are like so valid. And so talk to your coach about our hiring system, so that I never want a client to be in a position where they feel golden handcuffed. So let's always be looking, let's always be interviewing, let's always make sure that we have a write-up policy. Let's use situations like this to encourage building systems for how we operate in the field, for, to kind of clean up some of these bad habits. And so if you are having a hard time finding applicants, talk to your coach about it. Let's get a good hiring system in place so you can kind of not feel so golden handcuffed by somebody, where you're feeling kind of trapped. Jordan, I know you just had this happen to you, I think last month, where you had to make a hard decision. I see your hand up if you want to unmute. And
yeah, first I just want to say I can relate 100% to what you're going through. I don't know if you're a new or a old company or how many guys you had, but I only had
He's been around for decades, right, Brian?
We've been in business for 40 years, but we've just started expanding in the last year and a half. My brother and I took over the business. I've got 3 employees and then 3 technicians and then myself. I still work in the field, but they work full time and overtime. And then I work still full time, but then I also work in the office.
Sure. So it's kind of similar to us in terms of like I think right now we have 7 employees. Anyways, I let 2 guys go. One guy was easier than the other because he wasn't really a producer. I mean, he was very knowledgeable, but he would get jobs done. It just took him an eternity to do it. And so he was basically bad mouthing the company to like contractors and stuff. And that was a pretty easy one to let go. The second guy, I let go because of like drinking and drug use. And it wasn't necessarily like at work, but like he just couldn't show up to work. Was always calling in Mondays, always leaving early. But like, man, when the guy worked, he was a rock star. So finally, like he called in a Monday that I was at a training in Wisconsin for, and I let him go as soon as I got back. But what I'm getting at is part of me wants to bring the guy back, and I know I'm not going to, Nicole, but like it's hard when you're a small business and you only have a couple of guys and you got a guy that consistently brings in like $10,000, $15,000 a week, and you're going to let that guy go. What I would say is that the grass is not always greener on the other side. I've just froze on me there, but the grass is not always greener on the other side. And if you're going to bring new guys in to replace them, vet them well, because I brought in 2 new guys to replace the 2 guys that I let go. And I feel like in terms of revenue producing, in terms of profitability, the 2 guys I had before were more profitable and better than the guys I brought in, right, as replacements. So just because you're going to let a guy go, the replacements, it's not always greener on the other side. And that's what I'm finding right now. So, I've got 2 new guys in, and neither one of them are as good as the guys I let go, which is tough, right? Because that's what makes me want to go backwards and call the guy back and be like, hey, dude, maybe, maybe we rethink this, maybe we come back. Because his younger brother works for me. So like and I care about the guy. It's not like I fired him because I hate him. I fired him because he couldn't show up to work. And so I care about him. I hope he's doing better, you know. I ask his brother, you know, is Tyler doing better? And then when he says, yeah, he is, it's like, shit, man, maybe I should just give him another shot, you know? So I don't know how to navigate those roads. But that's my experience. Sometimes you do have to let guys go, but that the grass isn't always greener on the other side when you bring a new guy in also.
Yeah.
I think that
And no, I was just going to say, you know, I want you, Brian, to be able to walk away from here really knowing and having confidence in what to do next. And Jordan, I appreciate that feedback, but there's a big difference between letting a guy go because he's late versus a guy in front of your team multiple times flat out telling you, no, I'm not doing that. When you're making a very reasonable request. And
It's only been one time in front of one of my guys that he told me no. The phone stuff was just between me and him. It was when we were doing the mock practice on doing door-to-door sales that he told me no in front of one of the other guys that I was trying to help. So it's only the one time he's told me no in front of anyone. Other than that, it's just between me and him.
yeah, and you said that you've tried talking to him before one-on-one in the past, and that hasn't really done anything.
He would like bite his tongue sometimes and be like, okay, but then I know he's probably not doing that just because, you know, I've been around him for 2 years now. And in the past, like the phone thing, it's probably been a year ago that we said, you know, no phones while you're out there. And that's when he told me in front of me, like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I have to talk on the phone.
Okay, so
And
he's told you no to your face twice when you've asked him to follow a very reasonable request, but just
Yeah.
one was in front of your team.
right.
So yeah, that's kind of again, I go back to, I view that as a point of no return. And I absolutely hear what Jordan is saying, that, oh man, you know, I lost a guy who's more profitable, and part of me has wanted to bring him back, especially now that I know he's doing better. Well, sometimes letting someone go can be the catalyst for someone making a lot of change, right? You know, Jordan, in your situation, who knows if this guy would have ever improved if you hadn't let him go? I've let people go and they've come to me later in life, literally have reached out to me and said, honestly, that was the best thing that you could have done for me. It caused me to wake up, you know, it's caused me to get serious about life. And so, you know, the first thing that you want to make sure to do is that you've really, you know, set expectation with this guy. Hey, here's what I can't have. Here's why I can't have it. Writing you up. Here's what's going to happen if we can't get you to like follow what our team is doing. We just need you to cooperate, right? You can not like it, but you can cooperate with it, right? For the sake of trying to better our team. So need you to do that. If that can't happen, then this isn't going to work out much longer, right? Have that clear conversation. But I would absolutely start looking for your new guys still, because the thing is this is, you know, like in Jordan's case, Jordan, like, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but maybe you brought on the wrong person, right? Maybe it's not that this guy's so much better. Maybe it was just we brought on the wrong person. Or maybe you just need to spend maybe more time with these guys. They're new. They're not as profitable. Of course, the guy's been with you. He gets it. He's done sales for you, right? And so even if a guy isn't as good, if he has the right character, you can make him good. You really want to get that character higher. You really want to get someone that you can rely on, that you can depend on, that's going to be at a bare minimum a team player, you know. So anyway,
I also think that
yeah, Travis,
kind of like
please.
you were saying, Robert, is just going ahead and starting that hiring process, because a guy like that at some point is really likely to force your hand, where you're like, it's very clear that you're like, okay, I've got to get rid of this guy. Well, now you're in this rush panic mode. Maybe you had to let him go there on the spot. and you just have to hire somebody quickly. The odds that you rush into hiring somebody and them not being a good fit, and now you have lost that production, kind of puts you in that position. Whereas if you're proactive about it, and while you're kind of already having in your mind, he's gone, I'm looking for the right person, you can really spend the time to find, like Robert was saying, that high quality individual, high character person that's really going to buy into the team. You can start training him so that when that break happens, you're not starting from square one. That process has already matured a little bit.
And something that you could do as well is like these trainings that you're wanting to do with the team. That's great. It's excellent what you're wanting to do, Brian. But I would just, emotionally, this is why the acceptance part is so important, is because the lack of the acceptance of the truth of the situation is what can keep people stuck, right? It's like we're almost stagnant. It's like I want to keep them, but I don't want to get rid of them. But I need to address these issues, but I don't know what to do, and we just kind of get stuck. So something that you could do in this time where you're looking for someone is like mentally, emotionally, give this guy jobs to do, pay him to do the job, and then just you could even say, hey, you don't need to come to these trainings anymore. I'm going to relieve you of that. There's the team. Well, why do we have to be at these trainings? And, he doesn't have to be there. Let's say he's still on your team. You're looking for your replacement. The conversation is just, hey, it's going to really benefit anyone here to be a part of this. Anyone that's not here and not going to be a part of it, it's not going to be a good long-term fit. He's just running jobs for now, right? Doing what he's doing. But anyone who's not participating in the trainings, it's not kind of like indicating, without necessarily making a decision, kind of indicating, hey, this isn't going to last very long. Like if someone isn't in the trainings, it's because we've kind of signed off on them, right? And we're looking for the replacement. So anyway, that's the feedback. I really appreciate everyone's feedback to that. And Brian, please keep us updated on how this plays out. More than anything, the kind of last thing I'd say, more than anything, is don't do nothing. A lot of people here have given you consistent feedback. A lot of people here have given you feedback that's absolutely been in your shoes. And the most important thing that you could do today is to take action. It's uncomfortable. You want to avoid it. I'm not saying that you want to avoid it, but just dealing with stuff like this isn't fun, right? But I encourage you to take action today and to start making progress towards a better organization. Because in the long run, even if there are short-term losses from letting this guy go, in the long run, you're going to create a culture that's going to empower even more people to be even greater producers than this guy is right now, by setting a standard of excellence and holding the team accountable to that. You're in your infancy stage of setting a standard of excellence and holding people accountable to that. That's a new thing for your company, right? You've been on this growth journey, wanting to expand for just a year, right? You're trying to set in motion the culture and the standard of excellence that's going to last for 10 or 15 years or more, right? And you're just in the beginning of that. Growing pains. That's what this is, growing pains. Kirk Cameron. I'm just kidding. Okay. Anyone else got anything? Good to see everybody. Mr. Hoffman.
Hey.
Great to have you, sir. What's up?
I just want to know what are other individuals doing to kind of like retain some employees. We had a guy who has been with us for about like 4 years now as an apprentice. Just passed the journeyman test, which I was super excited about because he was going to kind of be my gateway to step out of the field. He passed that like 2 weeks ago, maybe week and a half ago. And then we had a conversation this week about pay raise and some other things, which I expected, and that's totally fine. He should be compensated when he gets to that next level. But then he kind of brought in the conversation about how he already, whether it was him or whether another company kind of sought him out, and he kind of just threw out there, well, they're paying me, or they were offering to pay me such and such amount. And that's just something that I couldn't even, for an entry level journeyman, I couldn't pay that. I mean, to me, that's more like a senior level. And this other company is like a large company. They have like hundreds of employees, so they're doing larger jobs, stuff like that. But I'm just curious what other guys are doing to maybe like incentivize or train, or like possibly another way that I could incentivize him to stay, other than maybe monetary.
Anyone got any feedback for Kyle? How to get people to stay? Chris, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how are you guys today? I've been part of several different businesses. I currently own, I don't know, 3 or 4 now. I don't even lost track, but employees are always the sticking point, right? Finding the right person to do the job you need them to do, and to do it without babysitting them. Every business has this, no matter what trade I'm in, no matter what sector I'm in, this is always an issue. And what I found, like for our water delivery business, for instance, we had to hire a driver with CDL because we can't drive the truck. And we were offering to start $25 an hour, and which is more than most guys are paying. And everybody we talked to was like, oh man, you guys are paying great. Granted, we're not full-time with the driver yet, but we wanted to bring them a pay incentive to say, all right, look, we're going to pay you this much to start off. We'll bump you up $5 an hour in a year if you don't have any accidents or issues or anything like that. So the monetary portion was a good incentive, but we presented to them that, hey, this is a new business. And this only worked for this business model, I guess. Each business is different depending on if you have 100 employees or 2. So I guess it's a balance between all these different things depending on how big you are. But for our driver, we wanted to incentivize him by saying, look, you're coming in, helping us get started. You're in an entry level. We're going to pay you good to start. We'll bump you up and give you more of a supervisor position as we grow. And we kind of presented the option to be part of the business, to grow with us. We'll take care of you. There'll be, more benefits to come in the future if you stick with us and you help us grow and you do your job. We don't have to babysit you. And it kind of gives them an incentive to kind of work harder. You basically be your own boss. You just do this and take care of your tasks, and we'll help you grow. So that was kind of with the driver we had hired. It really is working well for this company. I know every company's different and the sizes are different, but even in our finished carpentry business, having guys, it's finding those guys with integrity, care about the quality of their work, what they're doing, and you really got to kind of get a feel for who the person is. And then if you find that person, take care of them, offer them incentives, even if it's costing you and you're not making as much money as you were on that job. By paying this guy a little bit more to retain him, it's worth it, because it's going to save you money in the long run. So even if you're not, like you said, you couldn't pay that guy this much, well, in the future, what is that going to do for the business? Is it going to help or hurt you? It may hurt a little bit now to pay the little bit extra out of pocket, but how's it going to help your business grow? So when I find those guys that I don't want to let go, I'll do whatever it takes to retain them. Obviously, if you're paying them $50 an hour and he can go make 100 somewhere else, that's hard to compete with. But you want to do what you can to retain those people with integrity, with that care about their work, their end product, because those are the hard ones to find.
That's a really good word, Chris. Really, really good stuff. And I think it also fits well with the feedback that we're giving Brian earlier too. Nate, what's up, buddy?
Hey guys. So a couple of things, Kyle, that I've seen work potentially, and especially in a small business, is what differentiates you between the big businesses. So maybe money might be hard to match, but maybe flexible working hours when they have doctor appointments might be something you can leverage as a small company, or vacation time. And that's the conversation is like, well, what's his motivation? What's important to him? For some people, it is money, but for some people, it may not be. There might be other things to entice them and make your company shine. The other thing, if it is money and you're not ready to shell out that money for someone who just got their journeyman's, is for you, what are your expectations of him to earn that much money? And write down those expectations and a timeline to achieve those goals. And that way you're making it very clear to him what it takes to get there. And I think when people see that written down in front of them, sometimes it becomes attainable and realable, something they can realize and shoot for. But with that is the caveat that you have to follow through if you write it down, right? You can't just let it slip, or it sets a bad precedent in culture for the company too. But that's just kind of what I throw out there, just to kind of mull over.
That's really good feedback. That's great feedback, Nate. So something that Chris and Nate both touched on, but didn't explicitly say, that I want to emphasize, is this concept of creating a vision for the future with your team. A lot of times your employees, they just don't know the plans that you have in terms of how you're wanting to grow a company. They don't know what kind of company you're wanting to create. They don't know the opportunities that are waiting for them that don't even exist yet in your company, that will manifest once you hit certain targets, right? Once you hit certain points in your company. And so I think part of what's really important is even just fostering a vision that allows people to see where you're going and the part that they could play in going there, right? For example, like it sounds like this guy is being entertained from what it sounds like a larger shop, right? He could take that job right now and immediately make a few dollars more an hour, right? A couple $100 more a week, but chances are he's never going to advance in that company, right? That's going to be his job, and that's going to probably be his pay rate for the rest of his life. Whereas with a younger growing company, there is much more opportunity to make an impact. And unless you are actually having conversations with people where you're setting that vision, they won't get it. They'll view it as just a job. So this is just something important as business owners who are growing companies. Is to create a vision with your team that allows them to feel like they're a part of something that's bigger than themselves, that's bigger than just going to the big guys in town and getting a good job. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is that a lot of times smaller businesses, to like Nate's point, can be creative with benefits and give people more benefits that to them make a bigger difference in their lives than just a pay raise. Right? It could be the paid time off. It could be, I really like this kind of like, hey, you hit these points, specific points, like what Nate was saying, write down, you hit these specific points and here's what you can earn. It could be a bonus structure, a commission structure. That's one way to solve this, honestly, for good, is if you started a commission structure that doesn't have a cap, and then the guy, writes his own ticket, and the more he benefits, the more your company profits, right? So there's just a lot more that you can do that you have control over, and your coach can help you discover what those benefits are. We've done that with a lot of people. But the main thing I'd really encourage you to do is begin fostering a vision of where your company is headed and how your current team can be a part of that vision for the future, because that's not something that you can find everywhere. Even in other small businesses, most people aren't doing that. Last story and I'll wrap up. So we brought on a guy in Power Builders in a remodeling business, and this guy was a former business owner, right? And we're paying him really good money. And we're paying him really good money, and he very much likes working for us. But I was in the Seattle meeting with the team this past week, and we spent an entire meeting just with me, my partner, and him, just going over the vision for our company and the role that he has to play. And I told him where I see him in the future, what I see him doing in the future, the teams I see him leading, the people I see him managing, right? So that can do a lot for people. People want a sense of vision, they'll buy into sense of vision. And then I also agree with Chris, man. In some situations, a temporary exchange of what would probably end up being a small decrease in profits sometimes can be worth it. If they have the right character, that's a big key. It's not just skill. They're the right character. They're someone you can grow on. Sometimes it's worth forking over some extra cash from, right? So really great question. Great feedback from both Chris and Nate. And yeah, we're just past 10 o'clock here. And so let's go ahead and wrap up for the day. Really great to see everybody. Thank you so much for being part of the group call this morning.